Alright guys, so as all of you who watched the Super Bowl already know, Marvel just dropped a brand new Avengers Endgame TV spot just before the start of the game, and of course, it's awesome. Made up of all brand new footage, this new spot really helps get you in the mood for the movie, and it also leaves just enough clues that some of this footage might have been messed around with on the same level as some of the Civil War and Infinity War trailers, so there's tons of room for us to theorize on what all's actually going on in certain scenes, which is actually really cool considering how it's been said before that any and all future Endgame spots and trailers are only going to be made using clips from the first 15 to 20 minutes of the movie. And man, if that's true, this movie's going to have an amazing opening based on everything we got in the spot. But I don't want to waste any more time here. Let's take a look at this new Avengers Endgame TV spot and see what all we can find in it. So the spot starts with quick glimpses at a lot of the different heroes who died during Infinity War before we get a few shots of the post-decimation New York, including the foggy skyline of the city, an abandoned city field, and this one support group. Remember this one, we'll get back to it in a little bit. Personally, I love this look of the world. It makes everything look equally depressing and gross. I mean, look at all the trash and the junk just laying around. It's a really great way of reinforcing the idea that the MCU's been limping along in the time since the fight in Wakanda. Speaking of, remember that support group we looked at earlier? Well, as you might have guessed thanks to the poster on the wall, this is a group for people who are struggling after they lost somebody in Thanos' snap. And who else would you expect to see in this group other than Steve Rogers? I mean, the guy was part of the team who failed to stop Thanos, leading not only to the deaths of billions of people on Earth alone, but also two of his best friends, Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes. He's also looking pretty angry and frustrated this time around. Honestly, with everything this dude's been going through over the course of the MCU, I wouldn't be surprised if this scene and the shot of him getting his shield back might actually be signs that he has full-blown PTSD this time around. That'd be kinda interesting to explore actually. Afterwards, we see Tony and Nebula working on the Benatar in a quick glimpse that actually feels pretty similar to what all we saw in Iron Man 1, when Tony and Yinsen were working on the very first Iron Man armor. They'll probably play the scene up in a similar way too, like they're both gonna be scenes of these two people working hard to escape what seems like a pretty inescapable situation. I can't imagine they're building anything too crazy though. We're probably just seeing them making some major repairs so they can pilot the ship back to Earth. Speaking of, we also get this quick shot of Steve, Bruce, Rhodey, and Natasha looking at something in the sky outside of Avengers HQ. I know the most likely option is that we're seeing the Avengers reacting to Tony and Nebula finally making it back, since who else would be landing right next to the Avengers, but who knows? Maybe we're seeing the group reacting to Captain Marvel getting back to Earth after all this time out in space. You never know. Moving on, we also get this look at Rocket slowly wandering into some hut or house out on the beach somewhere. Given how we see what looks like a lobster trap behind him, I imagine he's been living on a beach on Earth in the time since the decimation. I wonder why he never bothered building himself a ship to get back to space this entire time. Maybe we just don't have the parts he can use to get back out there, or maybe he's just not interested in going anywhere else since almost every other member of his makeshift family's dead. Either one works, I guess. Oh cool, looks like we're also getting to see Rocket wearing a variation of his classic Guardians costume too. That's pretty neat. There's also a couple shots of what I think are the Avengers preparing for their mission against Thanos, including a blonde Black Widow training at the shooting range, probably in Avengers HQ, and this shot of Ant-Man and War Machine suiting up. Then there's this shot of Thor in some random hut somewhere. At first I thought he might have been out in space, maybe even wherever Thanos was at the end of Infinity War since this kinda looks like his hut, but if you actually look closely, you can see that these are very clearly different huts and landscapes in the background. So instead, I wonder if Thor turned himself into a bit of a hermit out in Norway after the whole not aiming for the head thing. I mean, Odin did tell him to set up something for all the remaining Asgardians out there.
Asgard is not a place. Never was. This could be Asgard.
So maybe Thor found all the ones that survived Thanos' attack from the beginning of the movie and brought them back to Earth by the time this shot happens in this movie. Anyways, after this shot of Hawkeye in a cave or nearby some rubble or something, we also get this look at Cap apparently struggling to fully embrace getting back in the field. I mean, he's shaking and looking a little indecisive since he's not putting that shield back on right away, which lends itself to that PTSD idea I mentioned earlier. I wonder why he has his shield back though. Remember, he gave it up at the end of Civil War and hasn't touched it since. Maybe he grabs it himself, or Tony gives it to him after he gets back to Earth or something. And finally, we get this group shot of the remaining heroes walking through the Avengers base, I guess finally ready to start their trip through time and finish messing around with Thanos. It looks like we're seeing Cap, maybe Thor, I'm not entirely sure, Natasha, Rocket, Scott, and War Machine. Now you might have noticed that there's this big space between Scott and Rhodey right here, so it's possible that this shot's kind of like the Civil War trailers we used to get where they chopped out Spider-Man so nobody would see him till later. Who knows, maybe this shot actually features Captain Marvel, and the Russos decided to cut her out like Spider-Man. More important than that though, who's that behind Rhodey? I mean, they managed to cover him up pretty well, so I'm not entirely sure who it is. Is that Bruce maybe? I'm not entirely sure. But either way, that's it. That's everything I was able to find in the newest TV spot for Avengers Endgame. If you guys agreed with anything I said in this video, or if you found something in here that I didn't mention, or you have your own theories about something I did bring up in this video, then go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, I will see you all next time. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, then go ahead and click that like button, and if you're new, maybe consider clicking that subscribe button too. I've also got links to my Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and Patreon in the description. You should probably check those out too. And if you want to see more of my content, then you can click the link to my last video. It's right there in the middle of your screen. Alright, and I will see you all next time.